My name is Yasar Dogan. I am a solicitor advocate specializing in immigration and nationality law, including free movement rights of EU citizens. Today, I'd like to talk to you about Brexit and its impacts on the EU citizens living in the UK. The 31st of October is now behind us. However, the UK hasn't exited the EU, and there are still a number of questions preoccupying the minds of many. Will Brexit happen? If so, when? Is it going to be a Brexit with a deal, or will it be without a deal? How will all of these impact on the lives of the EU citizens and their family members currently living in the UK? Millions of EU citizens currently residing in the UK will be affected by whether Brexit will happen, and if so, when and in what shape, deal or no deal. While there are so many uncertainties, there are some known facts too. EU citizens who've acquired British citizenship don't need to do anything. They can stay in the UK after Brexit by virtue of their British citizenship. All other EU citizens who seek to continue to live in the UK after Brexit will need to apply for a residence status under the EU settlement scheme. This also applies to the family members of EU citizens who aren't themselves EU citizens. If your application is successful, you'll either be granted settled status or pre-settled status, depending on your circumstances. If you can prove that you've already resided in the UK for at least 5 years, you'll get settled status. Otherwise, you'll be granted pre-settled status. If you are granted pre-settled status, you'll then become eligible to apply for settled status after you have completed 5 years continuous residence in the UK. Even if you've never worked or studied in the UK, you can still apply under the EU settlement scheme. The application process isn't complex, especially compared to other types of immigration applications. Also, you don't need many documents to make your application. If you have a document certifying permanent residence or a permanent residence card, if you are not an EU citizen, the process is even simpler. You can either choose to make your application yourself, or you can use the assistance of a legal professional. At Redstone Solicitors, we'll be more than happy to prepare and submit your application for you. If you have a document certifying permanent residence or a permanent residence card and you are interested in having British citizenship, we may be able to help you apply for British citizenship without having to apply under the EU settlement scheme first. When should you apply? This will largely depend on whether we'll have a Brexit with a deal or a no-deal Brexit. If it will be a no-deal Brexit, you'll need to apply by the 31st of December 2020. If it will be with a deal, then you'll have until the 30th of June 2021 to apply. However, we'd advise you to apply as soon as possible to avert any undesired consequences that may arise out of a change in the political climate. A particular word of warning for those EU citizens who work in the UK as self-employed persons: if a no-deal Brexit takes place, you may face a particular adverse impact on your rights. This is because a statutory instrument disapplying directly effective rights of establishment has been introduced by the government and approved by Parliament. Our understanding is that this will come into force only in the event of a no-deal Brexit. However, if Brexit happens without a deal, it will come into force and disapply the freedom of establishment on the day the UK exits the EU. The statutory instrument in question will also disapply the equivalent or similar rights enjoyed by Swiss and Turkish nationals. The government officials have reassured Parliament that those EU citizens already living and working in the UK will not be affected by the changes. However, the wording of the statutory instrument doesn't reflect any transitional arrangement, creating a cause for concern. We believe that the statutory instrument in question is problematic and potentially unlawful. This is mainly because the EU Withdrawal Act doesn't give powers to the government to make policy changes affecting the individual rights of EU citizens. We believe that the statutory instrument is potentially ultra vires, meaning that the government has acted outside of the powers given to it by the EU Withdrawal Act. Unless the government will keep to its promises and assurances, this matter is very likely to be litigated in the courts. Let's hope that this won't be needed. That's all for now. We'll continue to inform you of any relevant developments. Thanks for now and goodbye.